We will call together the 1:30 p.m. finance meeting today on February 9th, 2022. And Teresa, do we have any public comment today?
No, there's no public on.
Okay, so with no public comments on Zoom and no public comment in the room, we'll go ahead and move to agenda item 3, which is the approval of the minutes of March 2nd, 2022. Do we have a motion, please?
Move to approve the minutes. Second.
Okay, so Gary will call you the second on that. So it's moved and seconded. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. So we'll go into our topics of discussion, and we're just going to go ahead and take the third topic of discussion, which is the discussion and motion to reaffirm the execution of the experienced care contract. We're going to take that first because Stacy Snyder, our Director of Operations, has to leave.
So thank you, Commissioners. So this is a contract. This is a request to reaffirm the execution of the contract. This contract is with Experience Care. They provide Keen software at the nursing home. And this is so our finance department will have access to the information up through the closing time on Saturday, so we can appropriately manage the accounts receivable.
Okay.
Any questions? And I do want to indicate this is a contract solely between the county and Experience Care.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions? No. All right, then we would entertain a motion.
I'll move to reaffirm the execution of the Experience Care contract as presented today.
I'll second the motion.
Moved and seconded. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and no opposed, motion carries. Thank you. So now we're going to go ahead and move on to bond issuance briefing by the Finance Department. Dana Best is here.
Good morning, good afternoon, sorry. It's been a long day. We pulled our bond team back together again for a bond issue for the radio project. The team consists of PFM, which is Brad Remig and Melissa Hughes, McNeese Wallace, which is Timothy Horseman and Donna Kreiser, and Ron and I. You got 3 of us today. The purchase order for Motorola was completed in December, and we have a couple of towers that are under construction. We have a reimbursement resolution so that we can reimburse the general fund for any costs that are incurred before the bond issue is complete. So I'm requesting to start moving forward and to split this bond financing over 2 bond issues, the first one in 22 and another in 22-23, depending on the project timing. We're currently using 15 million as the estimate for both bond issues, but we'll adjust it pending the potential allocation of other funding and actual project costs. So this is what we consider our kickoff meeting, and we will be asking for authorization to proceed at the next workshop on March 17th. So with that, I'll turn it over to Brad.
Okay.
It's good to see everybody today. Staff as well. I think on the screen, there's my handout. I hopefully may have been provided hard copies.
Yeah.
There's the cover page, and we'd be kind enough to go to the, I gotta do it. Sorry. Okay. This is a colorful chart that we usually bring to our meetings that you may be familiar. It's been a while since we really talked about bonds, and it might be new in some cases. And this is kind of a one-pager trying to show you about where the market is for municipal bonds. Because as you know, the county can issue bonds on a tax-free basis in order to fund its capital projects. And you see, municipal market data is really this index, and it's kind of like what you might think of the Dow Jones for stocks and things of this. MMD is what we use to track our municipal market. I'm going to go to the middle chart. The middle chart shows you the direction of, we picked one rate, the 10-year rate, and mapped it back to 1993. So that's about 30 years worth of data. And as you move to the right to more current times, you can see really how low we are from a historical perspective. I think I like to start with that just because people are hearing rates are going up and the Fed's going to move. We have inflationary pressures and obviously a lot of the uncertainty what's going on in the Ukraine right now. So that's putting some upward pressure on rates. But still, from a historical perspective, you can see we're quite low if you look at history. The bottom chart graphs that same line since 2020, excuse me. And you'll notice on the far left a rather dramatic spike in March of 2020. We all know what happened in March of 2020 with the pandemic. Really sent the markets into a tizzy, but I like to point out it corrected itself relatively quickly with all the stimulus money out of Washington that kind of settled the markets down a little bit. And we've been enjoying very low rates for some time right now. But you do, as you move to the right, you can notice that, we are headed upwards a little bit because of the things that I mentioned earlier. Still very good from a historical perspective. I just want to put it in perspective from what we've seen for the last couple of years. The next page. All right, so here's kind of, before I get into some of the numbers, here's what Dana mentioned earlier, a little bit about a timeline that we've worked through with the team. Obviously, we're here to give you some information to kind of let you know we're kicking off. We mentioned having authorization to proceed. When I put this together today or later, next meeting is perfectly fine if the commissioners are prepared to do that. We would probably come back to you at the end of April to kind of, once we gather some more information and get the numbers together and figure things out, give you an update on the market, give an update of what we think the plan is. We're going to start the process. We need to go get our credit rating affirmed. And as you know, the county has a very strong, the highest credit rating you can have, AAA. So we'll go through that process, as well as put together what we call an official statement. For those of you that have purchased municipal bond funds or mutual funds, those are prospectuses, they call those. An official statement is similar, with a lot of information about the county, the finances, the information that the county has put together for prospective investors, so they can make an informed decision on what they're buying when we go to those investors. We would then possibly look at trying to sell the bonds just prior to Memorial Day. We would take bids. Traditionally, we try and do this on a Wednesday afternoon in advance of your Thursday morning meetings. We want to make sure we can tell the bidders we're going to take action on this quickly, so they don't have to hold their rates for more than 24 hours. That's kind of the plan there, and then try and get you the money before July 4th holiday. So that's kind of what we're thinking things are. And this would be the motion that I think might be before you in a couple of weeks. I don't know if we'll have the number for the blank at this point, but I guess we could put in approximately $15 million for the first piece. But that will be something similar to some wording that you might see on your next agenda for your consideration. With some background now, getting into the numbers, the part that I like the best. I thought it would be good to just go back to let you know what the county currently has in terms of debt. Okay, right now you have a very, very modest, very relatively low debt burden, to be quite honest with you, as municipal bonds go. We have a couple bond issues. There's a 2014 bond that's listed in column 2. 2016 and 3 and 4 is the 2018 bonds that we did. That was the most recent issue, and then column 5 adds it all up, totals it all up. And to be clear, the numbers that you see on those rows are principal and interest. But if you were to go to the bottom, you'll notice we do isolate how much principal. So you have less than $20 million of debt outstanding, which is quite low, to be honest with you, for a county this size. We also put in there, there's a line that says call date. That's the first date at which you could refinance or prepay without a penalty, okay, on a tax-free basis. We've passed that for the 2014s, and we obviously as a team were in close touch with that. Even as low as rates were, there really was no net savings to the county to do anything. So we recommended, why do a refinancing if it wasn't going to save you money. The 16s and 18s we'll have an opportunity to look at in a couple of years from now. For the 16s and the 18s are in 2025. So should the market perform well and there's an opportunity to save money, the team will be back to the commissioners about that. Okay. And there is one loan that we have, a lease rental debt we call the Hornbaker loan. I think that pays off this year. We just talked about that later in this year. So that's kind of what your picture is as you step into this. Okay. Okay, there's the next page. What we wanted to do for commissioners is let you know what a $15 million bond might look like in 22 and 23, selling them in the spring. And you'll notice in column 5 where your existing payments are. I just went through on the last page. Column 6 shows you approximately what the principal and interest payments would be. We're just putting something together for you to give you an idea of what the payment might look like. You'd have a small, probably interest payment in this budget, but then it would level out at just over $1 million a year for 20 years. And then we did the same for what might look like in 2023, just to give you an idea of our projections of how this might all play out. So that's for your review. And let's see, what else do I have? Oh, disclosure, very important stuff. I would encourage you to read it, but we have to put this in here to talk to, whenever we do the presentation for our clients. So with that, I didn't know if anybody had questions for me, or Tim, do you have any comments? Or
I would just, uh, excuse me, I would just express our appreciation for the opportunity to again represent the county as bond counsel, both on my behalf and Donna's behalf. And we'll of course work with your solicitor as we look to look ahead to the May timeframe for crafting an ordinance, and we'll be in close contact with your team and with Brad. So I look forward to working with you.
Thank you. I have a question for Dana. Dana, the 2014, 2016, and 2018 issuances, what were those for, please?
So the 2014 was the renovations at the nursing home for transitions. That is, we're in the process of calling that. I think April 12th is the magic date on that.
Okay.
And then 2016 was the public safety building and the prison, predominantly the prison. And then 2018 was all of it, the prison.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
so the 18 refinanced the 11s, which were.
Yes. And the 16 is also a refinance.
Okay. But the 2014's never been refinanced because if I heard correctly.
That portion of it was not
Okay.
refinanced.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks. Any other questions, commissioners?
Pretty straightforward.
You guys always do a great job with the presentation and the construction of the deal. So I'm pretty happy with what I see.
Thank you for the kind words.
Thank you.
We want to keep that reputation going.
We'd like to keep our AAA too. Let's keep that
Yeah,
going.
that's right.
We'll do our best.
Yep. Okay.
Well, thank you very much.
Good to see everyone.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
coming in.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Wow, I did it.
Thank you very much. All
Stay
right.
safe, you guys. All right.
With that, then we will move on to the third topic of discussion, which is discussion and possible motion to appoint an individual as an alternate to the Harrisburg Area Transportation Study Technical Committee. And all three commissioners received materials on 5 interested parties, and I believe that we have had time to review those materials. Do we have any discussion or possibly a motion?
Is Kirk present?
Yes, he is online.
Kirk, did you want to offer any summary information?
Sure. So, board, you have there everyone's interest letters and resumes. I think all 4 are qualified. All 4 are engaged in county activities and work with us successfully in the past. So I don't think there's a bad candidate in the group there.
Is there a better than good candidate, particularly since these issues are very important? There's big dollars attached to these. We've been, fighting from behind on some of these issues. So, I'm not asking you. I personally would have no problem with you offering a recommendation. I don't know that anybody else has asked for that. I don't know that you're comfortable giving one, but is there any additional information short of that you think is relevant to the HATS issues?
Not really, Gary. I think, each one of these has their own relationship to HATS and probably work with them in one way or the other. John Owens worked with some of the HATS committees. Susan Armstrong from Carlisle Borough, they've been very successful in leveraging some federal and state funds in the past. Keith Metz in Hampton, they're our largest municipality. They've been doing more work with PennDOT and HATS trying to get some attention to their municipality. And then Erin Trone from Lower Allentown, she's a regular attendee at the meetings. Dan Flint, as you may recall, was a previous tech committee member, and I believe he shared some of that institutional knowledge with Erin before his departure.
Kirk, since you mentioned that, my understanding is that Steve Deck made a direct approach to one of these candidates to, either offer or encourage them into the pool. Do you have any insights into how that occurred? Because that's not how this is supposed to be handled.
Yeah, there was a mistake there, Gary. I think Aaron mistakenly thought that Tri-County or HATS did the appointing. I contacted her after we got her initial letter and said, hey, it's the county commissioners. So she did send me an updated version, but I didn't get it over to Tammy in time. So I know that one letter was addressed to Steve. That was just a mistake on Aaron's part.
Okay. All right. Thank you for the clarification.
Hey, Kirk, how often are alternates involved? I would think it's very rare, but.
Yeah, not a lot. I think, if we do appoint someone to this position, I think the expectation would be that they are present at most of the meetings. If they can't make them all, that's fine. But I think we would want them to come up to speed on what's going on with HATS and transportation so that we do get a little more municipal familiarity with the process and what's going on. Because I think, as we saw from the outreach meeting yesterday, I think there's still a lot of questions on how some of this stuff works.
Kirk, if I can add one thing to you to that point. I think we're going to consider that attendance is pretty important, even if they can't make it. But, the history has been on this too. Now, Dan Flint was the alternate, but Dan also stepped in at several really key times because there are key votes taken on special meetings. I think the real important issue is not whether they're going to show up at every meeting, but are they showing up at the right meetings and are they contributing the right things at the right meetings to represent us effectively? So, even though they may not be required there often, it's not an unimportant position. We've counted on the alternate in the past for some really key support.
Yeah, I think you're right, Gary. We want to make sure at HATS that we have 2 votes, whether it be a coordinating committee or technical committee, that we always have 2 votes at the table.
One other thing,
We're looking for alternate to Deb Ealer.
That's correct, Vince. The order would be to Deb Ealer.
Okay. Right, well, I'll make a motion to appoint John Owens as the alternate member to Deb Ealer to the technical committee of the Harrisburg Area Transportation Study, also known as HATS, back today.
And I am going to second that motion. And I want to thank you so much, Kirk, for the people that you presented to us. And I really thought their materials were excellent and that any one of them would have been a fine alternate.
Yep.
So there's a motion and second on the floor. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Any no opposed? So motion carries and we can get that information right out to Mr. Owens. Thank you for your time.
Kirk, don't go yet. I do have a question, and the question should have been asked. Opportunity for a question should have been presented before the vote. But anyhow, has this historically been a municipal person? We do not have this position as a municipal carve out. Is that correct?
No, Gary. I think we have 2 seats on HATS, the tech committee and the coordinating committee. At the tech committee, it's historically been one of the planning, the planning director. And then the other one's kind of been up for grabs. I think since my time here, we've tried to make it that it's a municipal person, again, trying to make that link back to our municipalities and have them involved in the process.
Now, my question related to that is, do we have any input to these folks in regards to their shall I say, their obligation to be a county representative versus being a municipality specific representative? Because in the past, we've run into that at least 2 times I can think of, where we had individuals whose policies ran counter to the commissioners, apparently because of municipal influence. Is there anything we can do to avoid that kind of thing with that position?
Yeah, I think the first step, whenever I solicited these folks, I indicated in the note that I sent them that this is a county position, not a municipal position where they're representing just their own thoughts. And I think just ongoing training, as they come on board, to let them know that this is about the county and broader than just one municipality. And I think we have critical votes too, Gary, that we see coming up that we need to pull everybody together and talk about that. With me being on the tech committee, I'll definitely do that in consultation with Gene as the coordinating committee rep to make sure that we're all on the same page, how we want to vote on certain issues.
Okay, that's extremely helpful. Your words are golden as always. So thank you very much. That's all I have.
Yeah, those relationships are really important. Relationship building is very important. So we'll move on to item 5, which is other business. Do we have any other business to come before the finance meeting? Okay. Seeing and hearing none, we have a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
All right, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Kurt.
Thanks.